Welcome to the School of Radiance podcast. I'm your host, a humble human on a mission, here to help you and I both look and feel our best. And if I can do it, you can too. Today, we have a very exciting guest joining us today. And what we're going to be talking about in today's episode are different things that can help boost your confidence, help enhance your beauty. We're going to be talking about rejuvenation. We're going to be talking about self-care and how some of our daily practices and routines can really support us slowing aging and living our best lives, being our most radiant versions possible. And yes, we are going to talk about rejuvenation because we have an aesthetics doctor joining us here today. And actually, I've had the opportunity to train our guest here today and was recently at an event that I was speaking about. So, of course, we connected. It's like, let's record, let's create some beautiful content to help inspire and uplift those who are considering rejuvenation and both looking and feeling our best. So let me tell you a little bit about today's guest. Dr. Noya is a renowned naturopathic doctor, a lead clinical injector, and the visionary and founder of Caviar Skin Clinic, a premier destination for aesthetics procedures in Vancouver, British Columbia, with locations in Vancouver, Yaletown, and White Rock. Caviar Skin Clinic has rapidly become one of the province's most sought-after clinics for non-invasive cosmetic procedures and anti-aging treatments. She's known for her expertise in advanced injectable techniques, including Russian lip filler, jawline contouring, under-eye rejuvenation, and also non-surgical butt enhancements. Dr. Noya blends medical precision with an artistic eye to deliver natural, confidence-boosting results. At Caviar Skin Clinic, patients experience a fusion of cutting-edge science and beauty, where personalized care meets transformative outcomes. Dr. Noya's mission is to empower individuals both internally and externally through a holistic approach to beauty procedures. Welcome, Dr. Noya, to the show. How are you today? And of course, what is radiance to you?
I'm good. Thank you so much, Nurse Rachel, for having me on. It was so nice connecting with you at the conference. What does radiance mean to me? Radiance is, for me, I would say what comes to mind first is that it's a felt sense internally. We all have those days where we just feel radiant. We feel magnetic. We feel that the universe is in alignment for us, and the world isn't against us, and things are just kind of magically lining up. And it can be just even the smallest kind of daily things. For me, that's what radiance is all about, is just being in tune with the universe and with ourselves.
Absolutely. And when we last connected, I was presenting at an event talking about the pioneers of anti-aging. It was a room of about 60 docs. And when I'm speaking, I'm in a little bit more of an on-point magnetic state. And what's really cool about being in that kind of energy where your radiance is really shining is you become a magnet
Mhm.
for other beautiful connections. And I'll never forget when we connected, there was just like this openness. It's like we're totally okay with seeing each other and being there for one another in women. And it's really fun also being in a similar field. It's not a competition mindset, which is actually very common in the field. It's more of a collaborative and, how's the journey going and all of that stuff. So what is it like to be a practitioner and see your patients coming to you with different concerns and, the eyelids, the brows, the jawline, the pigmentation, the loss of collagen? What is it like for you to hold space for your patients that are coming to you for rejuvenation and then being able to offer it? What does it feel like to be providing these kind of services?
Mhm. Honestly, it feels amazing. And in short, it feels really fun. Um, sure, there's a little bit that it's a challenge. With my training as a naturopathic physician, I have to say we do so much, like empathy training in school, and we even have like grief counseling classes in case you ever had to, you were dealing with patients that had cancer with, X number of months to live and things like that. So I feel we've learned so much about dealing with people and putting our own stuff aside, for creating that space and holding that container for that person. And when we look at kind of like what is empathy, and it's really like putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes. Um, Without that, I don't think it might have been so amazing and so fun. It can be very challenging, of course, dealing with people in so many different personalities, especially when they are paying for a service at the end of the day. So there is, an extra added expectation. They're not just my friend who I'm calling and speaking to, though I really am grateful for that training in school. And I'm not sure it's consistent throughout all different levels of education. Dentists can inject, nurses, physicians, and I think we all get a little bit of different training for that. So I am very grateful for the program that I took, and I'm grateful for that training. Because of that, I could really attune and tap into my patients, and it really does take that. If we come in with our own stuff and our own, judgments, and we're not able to like separate that, what we're thinking internally and like what the patient is like bringing here with, then it's really easy to get entangled and mixed in that. But I would say, my superpower is attuning to the patient, what they're saying, um, really listening and taking that in and being able to repeat that back to them and then give them what they're asking for. I'll tell you the number of times a patient has come in and they said, I really wanted my lips done. I haven't had them done in a year. I just want some shaping. And they said the doctor said no. And, they ended up adding 2 syringes in my cheeks. And, I felt really insecure because I didn't ask about my cheeks and they were telling me what I needed. And, after that, I paid X amount and I still want my lips done. And so I really listened to my patients and took that feedback in for how I decided I wanted to have my practice. And if it weren't for every little patient sharing something, what they liked or what they didn't like, it really helped me hone in and kind of what we would call maybe a patient centered experience, which is what I'm really big on, and customer service in other industries. And so yeah, I feel like it's really fun and amazing, and it's why I love what I do is interacting with the people.
It's really funny I mean, you're kind of getting the behind the scenes of what it's like to be an aesthetic practitioner. And when I grew up, I was very much a tomboy. I loved doing sort of more masculine activities. And then when I got into aesthetics nursing, it's like all these women wanted to be my friend because they knew what I did, right?
Mhm.
And then they would come and see me and I would help do their rejuvenation. And then when we hang out, they would ask me questions. And it was actually really lovely for me to get into aesthetic nursing, and then as a researcher and then as a teacher and speaker and presenter and all that. It's such a beautiful way to work and provide care. And a lot of times, for those of you listening, it's very common to consider rejuvenation when we're going through transitions in life. That's typically when we can see some of the biggest shifts in the way that we look, oftentimes because of perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, passing away, different things happening in relationships, becoming an empty nester, retiring. It's almost like when we go through these shifts or transitions, there's kind of like this initiation. It's like, oh, I'd really love to take care of some of those fine lines and wrinkles and hooded upper eyelids and maybe put back some of this volume that was once there. And then you do it. And then you see yourself in the mirror like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. It's, maybe how I looked 5, 10 years ago. And thanks so much for sharing that experience of one of your patients. And one of the things that behind the scenes Dr. Noya and I have to do is we hear the patient's needs, and then we kind of take that into consideration while also looking at the ideal facial ratios. And yes, you mentioned fillers. Basically, these are hyaluronic acid implants that can restore lost volume because we lose fat, bone, and soft tissue, including collagen and elastin, and actually doing a little bit all over, like cheeks, lips, marionette zones at the same time, and maybe some neuromodulator. a little bit all over too, including the full face and neck. It's like a little bit here, a little bit here, but creating this balanced look is so gorgeous. And then we see the end result, and obviously the patient does too. And it's just like this glassiness, this youthfulness. What is it like for you to provide care? And I can sense the empathy and the sensitivity to women going through things. But what would you say are some of the common sort of like life stages
Mhm.
of your patients when they are coming to see you for rejuvenation, either the first time or follow ups?
Oh, totally. Um, I would say one big one is uh, after having a baby, and when you're done the breastfeeding, 6 to 12 months later, depending on who, women are so excited to come back. They have been giving, building a life inside of them and giving a life to nurture. And finally, this is kind of around the first time where they're doing something for themselves. Um, One of my girlfriends had a baby just in November, and I hear it from her where sometimes she's like, I can't even shower because I don't want to leave the baby alone for too long. And so getting back into aesthetics, or if it is your first time, there's been such a change in hormones, and um, it's kind of a big time where moms are very excited to come in and just do something to kind of spruce themselves up. And I do love a full face transformation. The like little bit here, a little bit there, little bit here, I feel makes the overall bigger and better difference than kind of overloading just one area, where then it can look heavy and disproportionate and unnatural. And another one is I do see a lot is um, like a breakup, or a woman might be still in the relationship, but it's been kind of not going well, or maybe like in a limbo, and they're just feeling that their confidence has kind of been declining, and they maybe haven't taken whatever action um, they want to take yet in their relationship, but they just feel like they want to do something to uplift themselves. And this truly is a time of self-care, and sometimes it's the only time we make for ourselves. And by the time we make food, go to work, come back, clean the house. Um, so that's another period. And also, after a loved one has passed, is more common than I think we would assume. If you didn't ask me that, I wouldn't have really thought about it. But or after some type of like funeral, people are in one of the lowest states they kind of feel going through grieving, and that's also a time that people like to come in and just spruce themselves up. And then of course around the like perimenopause, menopause, just something with all this change happening inside, they just want to build things back up to where they feel, and they're not looking to not look their age. They just kind of always mention that they just want to feel like a little bit more of a refresher, look more awake, more uplifted. So those are the main kind of periods we typically see.
I love that. And yes, I'll echo this as well. It's kind of one of those things. Going through a hard time, you see yourself in the mirror, like, what happened? It's my goal for each and every one of you to, when you overcome an obstacle, life happens, right? Stress is the sign of being alive. It's not roadblocks, it's obstacles. It's truly my desire for you to really keep up with your self-care, with your biohacking. We're going to talk about some various anti-aging and longevity practices that I know that you do at your clinic. Dr. Noya, with you and your team of incredible practitioners that I totally resonated with, that I came in for training. And it's uncommon for me to do a training and the team are like totally into biohacking. It really made me happy. It's my goal for each and every one of you to go through life transitions, and each step of the way you're adding to your confidence, you're adding to your emotional intelligence, and you're rising and being even more bright and radiant than ever before. And I don't think there's anything wrong with seeking out some rejuvenation, whether it's skincare, microneedling, lasers, injectables, sometimes surgery, depending on, what's going on with the skin. And I love that you brought up post baby, because about 30% of listeners here have, just started their family and are finally learning to fill their cup up. And it's almost like rejuvenation and self care, I think very much so, is a way of filling up that cup for sure. And then the other thing that I know that you are passionate about as well is the longevity and the anti-aging and the functional, the integrative, the naturopathic wellness space too. So what are some of the things that we can do to actually empty the toxic bucket, if you will, from toxins we can accumulate that are environmental, that are emotional, that are work related, just being a woman? What can we do to support ourselves?
Mhm. Well, first off, definitely, I would say it's always good to do some testing and just kind of do some. There's so much health testing these days that goes well beyond just what your doctor, your like GP, family doctor gives you when you're sick or not feeling well. Um, because I'm a naturopathic physician, we have access to a lot of different tests. A lot of them come from the States. There are things like, where we can assess different like parasites, heavy metals. We can do like 3 day stool testing to see, are we breaking things down, and are hormones breaking down, and digestion really good. As we know, digestion is one of the most important factors, if not the important factor, that we're absorbing the nutrients we eat, and we're eating multiple times a day. This is our original source of nourishment. And also for taking supplements, we want to make sure our body can utilize those. It can transform those into the bioavailable forms of things so it can be used by our body. So testing is always important, and there is so many tests we can do these days. It's like, in terms of biohacking, it's unreal. I'm sure you've done many yourself: hormone testing, neurotransmitter testing, just to see where the body's at. That's a very, yes, physical model, still very important to treat our physical body. And I would say, going back to what you said about procedures and it being self-care, yeah, it is part of our physical health. We often think just food and exercise for like weight, but procedures are definitely part of taking care of our skin, which is, one of our biggest organs in our body. After that, I would say definitely our emotions play a huge factor. It can also be the reason why a lot of our labs might be off. When we're in constant stress, we are secreting cortisol, we are secreting norepinephrine, and we are in constantly this fight or flight response. And it is very aging to our skin to bring it back into anti aging. So, one of the greatest things we can do is, have those boundaries. If somebody is trampling your boundary and you're like disgruntled and resentful and so angry, and you're keeping all that in, I mean, it is toxic emotions and unhealthy. So we do need healthy outlets for processing these. And it may not always be, the thing that you want to do to go confront the person, but there are things like meditation, journaling, practicing other like smaller boundaries in place to really develop our own like self-respect for ourselves. And when we have self-respect for ourselves, it lessens the chance that other people, can take advantage of us, or us allowing them to take advantage. We are going to be hurt. We're all going to get triggered. I don't believe that many people are really malicious. They are acting out of their own wounds. So the more we're able to process our resentments and let go, it lightens the load. And we've all, felt so calm and so peaceful. And someone might call us beautiful, and we're like, we haven't even changed anything. I'm just in that aura of, again, radiance. And part of that is to process kind of painful, difficult, resentful emotions on a day-to-day basis.
Very beautiful what you said, with integrity, with maturity. Love it. Echo everything that you said, especially echo testing instead of guessing, and to consider working with a practitioner to do some high level testing. There's also a lot of things that we can do online now, which is great. The tests that I do, yes, are USA based also. So there's a couple of different types of tests that I love: Dutch test, an organic acids test, and different saliva, stool, blood tests as well, to get data on what's happening with our age. Actually, someone asked me my age the other day, and they thought I was in my late 20s, early 30s. I'm late 30s. And I said, well, chronologically, this is my age, but biologically, I'm 9 years younger because I've done so many different things to allow my genes and also emotions to express themselves in a more optimized, dialed in, and a powerful way. And speaking of aura, because this is quite relevant, Dr. Noya, I'm sure you've experienced this. Someone comes to see you and they've never done anything, and say they're 60 and up, and they look fantastic, even though they have some of the characteristic signs of aging, like pigmentation, fine lines, wrinkles, loss of collagen. But there's just something that's so beautiful and radiant. This is actually why I named the show the School of Radiance podcast, is to actually study this. What is it like for you to see someone operating in their, they're wiser in years, and they have this confidence and they actually look great? Do you think there's almost like this aura, bioenergetics, emotional, energetic bypass,
Mhm.
if you will, to actually how we physically look to actually how we present?
Oh, absolutely, and without a doubt. Um, I think we've all experienced that. And that radiance when we see somebody older in their 60s and 50s, especially coming in for the first time, they are fun people. They have a joke. They don't take life so seriously. I always actually have I have such a good time conversing with them. They're light. They see the world in such a kind of beautiful way. Of course, they've gone through hardships. Of course, they've gone through stresses and things, but they don't take life so seriously, and they don't beat themselves up relentlessly about it. I feel like this is an epidemic in kind of the younger population and older population as well, is that we are so hard on ourselves, and the expectations we put on ourselves are like crazy. Like, we expect ourselves to be like superwoman, superman all the time, and we're putting a lot of pressure on ourselves and repeatedly beating ourselves up and then gaslighting ourselves that we should do more and we should have done this and shouldn't have done that, and why did I take a 10-minute break? And we are very hard on ourselves, and this is probably also have to do with a little bit modern society, um, and where we are now versus kind of, putting family, social life, friends, and things like that first in our kind of enjoyment, even though one of the predictors of health is our like social life, and do we have a healthy social life around people? And I find when we have the honor of having 60-year-old plus people in the clinic for the first time, their aura is really just a reflection of how they move through the world and how they view themselves.
Yeah, I always learn so much from those who are much more wise and mature in years than I am. And just kind of fun, and I started in the aesthetics industry in my 20s, and just really, there's so many patients of mine that I just had this respect and reverence for because they were doing a lot of things really well. And when it comes to self care practices, what are some of your favorite things that you like to do? Say, for example, just things that really fill your cup, that really bring that satisfaction outside of the workplace, like working out, for example. How important do you think that is for slowing our aging and building our confidence? What are some of the things that you do to care for yourself?
Mm-hmm. Well, definitely, I'm always eating, the 80-20 rule. I eat 80% healthy, and I do indulge. And coming from like someone that had a fitness kind of competitive background, um, doing fitness competitions, it can lead to like unhealthy eating where you're so strict, and then, you end up binging, and it's really unhealthy. So I let myself indulge 20% of the time. For a year, I think it's been over 10 years, I haven't had to follow a diet or do anything or add all this unnecessary stress and then the following guilt if I were to eat, one bite past what I've determined I'm allowed or not allowed for one day. So I think having an overall healthy diet, and for me, healthy means indulging every now and then, like not stressing yourself out so much, and then working out. Yes, it's so important to get out there and sweat and move your body. And it can be as simple as dance. If you're a little bit more creative and just, you don't like formal structured exercise, that's fine. I play a lot of tennis. For me, I do, and Pilates. I am a little bit of a structured person, so I like some of the structure, but I think just anything where you're like moving your body and getting into your body and out of your head. We need to sweat. That's beautiful for detoxing. And if we're not doing that on a daily basis, we're definitely trapping some toxins in there too. These are like easy things you can do anywhere. And then in addition to that, of course, I, take all the supplements. It changes kind of with what my needs are. I do reevaluate every 3 to 6 months or so based on kind of what my goal is. Otherwise, yes, you end up taking way too much, and sometimes it's hard to swallow those pills, and you feel like they're stuck in your throat. So I do try to keep it like reasonable, something that's easy to stick to, than trying to take like 30 things at once. And then, of course, I'm all for the beauty procedures and the rejuvenation. And for me, that is one way I feel I take care of myself and helps me tap into my feminine as well, where I'm just focused on kind of what I view as my own version of beauty. And then I am very heavy on kind of processing my day and connecting to myself. I do meditate daily. I do 10 minutes of silence. And then I do 10 minutes of listening to, I'll just put on like sad classical music, kind of just to let whatever's been brewing kind of below the surface. Maybe it's a conversation I need to have with a friend, or with my partner or something. There's a desire or want that I haven't spoken up about. Something bothered me. Just let it like kind of rise up to the surface, instead of trying to stuff it down and be busy. And then I do journal in the morning. It takes about 5 minutes, and then in the evening for 5 minutes as well. So these are kind of the little things I do every day to keep my cup kind of what makes me feel good and keeps me connected to myself. Um, Otherwise, then I do notice I start piling on my day. My to-do list gets astronomically big, and it's never enough, and I should be doing this. And then I'm living a little bit more in my head, and kind of that's when I notice time starts to pass me by, when you're just like, holy, 2 months went by, like 3 months went by, it's already the next season. You're like, I don't even, was I even there? Was I present? So for me, those things are really important to keep me balanced.
Very well stated. You're quite an eloquent speaker. And for those of you tuning in, Dr. Noya also has her own show and does a lot of really great things online with social media, with her team and all that. Thank you for your openness and transparency. And one of the things that we were talking about before we started recording was the younger generation. And both Dr. Noya and I have a softness for, and it's kind of interesting that here we are, we're both practitioners in the medical aesthetic space. We do rejuvenation all the time. We have for many years. And here we are wanting to just really plant this seed of cultivating confidence in the younger generation. And I think that what this will do in the medical aesthetics industry is resulting in less women seeking procedures out of the space of not feeling good enough, that they have to look a certain way in order to fit in and fit this mold and things like that. It's not about that, because the confidence that bioenergetics of being radiant, um, it's actually, I think, more powerful than rejuvenation. And I think it's part of the foundation of actually what to do first, to do the inner work first, and then consider, okay, there's some things I want to take care of. I mean, I'll be the first to say I've had a lot of work done, and yeah, I'm not shy about saying that. But I love the work and the things that I have had done, and I just feel very confident and comfortable in my body. And when it comes to cultivating the confidence in the younger generation, I think it really starts with us, each and every one of us listening. You're probably aged 30 to 80 tuning into this, so the younger generation are really actually looking to us to set that example, to be the leaders. So for all of you here tuning into the show, you're learning those strategies on how to be your most radiant version, so that you're setting the example for the younger version as well. What are some of your thoughts around that, Dr. Noya?
Well, as we were speaking before, I 100% agree. It's so important to nurture a younger generation. That starts with all of us. It starts with us women as moms, as sisters, as daughters. And instilling confidence in each other and uplifting each other is so important, and it can be so nourishing on our soul. And nowadays, there are a lot of like families that are raised by a single parent. It's a lot of work, and I saw my mom, she raised me as a single mother, and it's a lot. Like, I saw her working, and she would still manage to work out and exercise and have a home cooked meal cooked every day. And moms are really like the super women of the world. And right now we are seeing such a high degree of like anxiety, of depression in our youth and in our young females and young gentlemen. And it's really sad to see that they're suffering so much. And of course, there's a lot with, social media as well that can be very skewed. And it's unfortunate that this is like now the expectation again we've put on ourselves and become so hard on ourselves that we're not worthy if we don't have XYZ or this happening. And it can really harm our self esteem. And I mean, I'm sure even the best meaning parents, it's like you can't get away from it. If, you're hiding phones or, minimizing TV, amazing. Like that's fantastic. However, there's so much influence around, or their friend's phone, or they go out somewhere else and you can't really get away from it now. So instilling confidence um, is such an important thing. And there's a lot of weight to that, because that's kind of the seed that's going to blossom and transform later on. And having a lot of self-respect, knowing boundaries, knowing what you want and what you don't want. I remember it actually reminds me of being in university when people would ask you, or you would ask them like, oh, what are you majoring in? Or like, what do you want to do? You're expected to pick after high school. And I just remember being a little bit surprised that, if I had to guess a number, it was like 90% of people like didn't know what they wanted to do, what they wanted to major in. They were kind of just floating a little bit aimless. And it's kind of sad. It shows me there's a break in that transition point, that there isn't enough being supported then to help people just kind of follow what their interests are in that. But we can see from that it starts from a really young age, and we're supposed to make these really big life decisions. And if we're ignoring the root of confidence, self-respect, boundaries, how we view ourselves and how we perceive others, we're missing a huge component.
And even for our age, and for those of you listening, there's always going to be shifts with direction and purpose, and what's good for you at your life at this time, your level of discernment, and taking the time to actually integrate these shifts and stepping into this beautiful, more radiant version of yourself on the inside and out, for both the ladies and the gents tuning in here. And I know for the generation before me, the emotional intelligence, the attachment style information and communication and all those things were sort of missing in our generation. I think we're kind of coming back around and rediscovering these things for ourselves. And they typically happen through some of those life transitions. So continue to work on yourself internally. It's okay to desire to have the external kind of match the internal shifts and being your best version. Continue to eat right, testing instead of guessing what that might look like. Move your body in a way that works for you, and focusing on uplifting content, especially in the personal development space, which is exactly what this show is designed for, to just sort of drip things into your awareness, keep you on track with positive momentum forward, so that you're kind of starting to have that discernment, make those decisions, pass this level of awareness on to the generation that's coming up as well, so that they can make great decisions as well, and be a light in the world. Dr. Noria, love for you to share with everybody, where can people find you?
Yes, absolutely. You guys can find me on Instagram at Caviar Skin Clinic, caviarskinclinic.com. Feel free to reach out. For any of you guys that are locals, feel free to pop by the clinic either in Vancouver or White Rock and say hi. Those are the places that you can find me.
Yeah, I love what you and your team are doing online, and just talking about lot of the different things that you hear me echo on the show that are in the integrative functional anti-aging biohacking naturopathic space, testing space, because when we do all these things, our skin is going to be a direct reflection of what's going on internally. So love that you're taking that foundational approach and really offering that full service approach to your patients as well. Do you have any closing words for us here on the School of Radiance podcast, Dr. Noya?
Some closing words. Based on the conversation we've had, I would just say, like, know that you are worthy and believe in yourself, and don't believe what anyone says about you. We can choose who we'd like to be on a day-to-day and moment-to-moment basis, and what version of ourselves we'd like to bring to the table, and stay beautiful inside and out.
Beautiful. Well stated. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into today's show right here on the School of Radiance podcast. Check out the show notes of this episode for more information on how Dr. Noya and I can support you. Be sure to share, like, subscribe, send this episode to a friend or family member. And of course, head on over to theschoolofradiance.com where you can check out my favorite skin products in my skin shop, book a one-on-one for skin and rejuvenation insights, what to do, where to go, that ongoing support, my seasonal skin tutorials where I show you exactly what I do behind the scenes and some of the more basic to advanced things you can do for your skin at home, and each season what we can do in the rejuvenation space that's most appropriate at that time. And then, of course, the membership, where we dive really deep into these layers of truly how we can become our most radiant version. Thank you, Dr. Noya. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. It's been a pleasure to spend time with you, Dr. Noya, and you listening. And I wish you all a fantastic, high vibe, radiant day. And I will see you again very soon, right
Thank you,
here on
Rachel.
the School of Radiance podcast. Thank you.